Ladies, gentlemen, coaches alike, welcome to NPBF Season 14. We've made it all the way to Season 14. It's crazy to think of. And what a crazy season it's going to be. Last season, I will admit, content fell apart. After a while, a lot of things were going on. A lot of changes in life were happening. It was a very difficult season to keep up with, and I apologize for that. This season, however, things will be different. Things are going to roll out as well as they can, and we're going to do our best to keep up with things here. So, with that being said, just jump into things. Quick overview before we get into the Week 1 matchups. We have a new rules document. A new rules document for the league. Completely redrafted it this season. Not too much has changed, keeping everything pretty straightforward. Basically, what has changed, however, is now we have switched up how we do trades and transactions, as well as how we handle extensions. Basically, in the past, there was no extension rule. It was left out, and they weren't allowed because a lot of people abused it in the past. I decided that this season it was something that I felt would be necessary to bring back. A lot of matches ended up not being completed in previous seasons just because people needed an extra day or two, and that just wasn't. It didn't sit well with me. I don't like having to just give a forfeit out because some people get hit by real life. I completely understand how that's like. It's been like that for me in the past too. I've dealt with situations where I've been held up as well, so completely understand it, and I wanted to give that option. So each coach has 3 extensions to use throughout the season. These extensions are worth 1 full week, so as long as the extended match is completed by the deadline of the following week, you're good. So to word that in an example format, say you're running late on your week 4 match, you can get the extension, and you have until the Sunday of week 5 at midnight PST to complete your week 4 battle. As long as you can complete that in that time frame while also completing your week 5 battle. I feel like we would take some discretion on hey, not going to give you 2 weeks to do all your battles in a row. I don't think we would give an extension in their week 5 battle because they were focused on their week 4 battle. And I feel like that would be a little bit. I feel like that kind of was obvious. But you never know. But we would cross those bridges when we get there. But so 3 for the season. So this way that it's not like you can't just abuse it all the time and just take however long you want to get your matches done. And the use of an extension comes down to whoever decides to use one. So say I'm facing off against James. Which James? Who knows? I feel like it's something you should discuss with your opponent based upon scheduling conflicts. If you're the one who has the scheduling conflict, you should be the one to use your extension. If it happens more in the future and you don't have any extensions left, your opponent can use an extension. Now, they can opt to not use an extension. In situations where there might be minimal communication or something like that, they could opt to not use their extension, and then it would equal a forfeit, but that's besides the point. It's up to the discretion of the coaches on when they use their extensions, and if they should choose to do so or not for an opponent as well. Personally, I would always use my extensions for an opponent because I typically don't need them. I would use them because I personally prefer to get my battles done, but It's up to each coach in each situation. And then for trades and transactions, normally we have pretty much an unlimited amount of trades and transactions for the most part. We gave 3 a week up until week 9, and then no more from there. And also infinite coach-to-coach trades throughout the season. Now, switch things up a bit now to where each coach only has 6 transactions to use throughout the season up until week 9. So if you haven't used them after week 9 is over, then you don't have those transactions anymore. But you can use them at any point in time throughout the season, any amount at any point in time, but you cannot exceed that number of 6. So, pretty straightforward, but you can still trade between other teams as well, infinitely as you want. So, it could lead to some interesting uses of transactions if you might be out of free agency transactions. You might be able to convince another coach, hey, I have this mon that I think you want, and I think it'd be good for your team. Would you be willing to drop something and pick this mon up that I want from that tier, and I will trade this one over to you? The stuff like that can happen as well, which I think is going to be really interesting to see if people barter with their transactions. I think that could be really cool. But that's pretty much the gist of it. Nothing too crazy has changed aside from that. Your current admin team is myself, James, the founder, Alex, Nate, Rennie, and Anthony. We are the big guys in charge around here. We are doing the best that we can to make the league as pleasant an experience for everyone as possible. Anyone who wants to look deeper into the rules, I will link those in the description below, and they are also linked on the doc, which I will also link in the description. So, moving onward, let's take a look at our matches this week, shall we? For our first matchup this week, we have Yasmin and her Vaporwave Vape Lords, which is a cool team name, by the way. Really do love that. Taking on our boy James and his Myrtle Magikarps. The one and only imposter James. James W., the man with the plan, whom we all appreciate around here for reasons I will not fully disclose, but he is, in my opinion, one of the GOATs here in this league. Love the dude to death. 2 great coaches here, 2 great people. Appreciate and love both of them being here, so I'm always looking forward to these matches. We have, on one side, we have Yasmin's Terrakion Dragonite in the Incineroar, the Vanillix, the Vaporeon, and the Slurpuff, taking on the Ferrothorn, Dracovish, Politoed, Vikavolt, Umbreon, and Mudsdale for James. So, a few pre-match thoughts. First thing, that Vanillix is terrifying to me. James's best switch-ins to that are probably going to be Vikavolt or Umbreon, and neither one really wants to tank a Specs Freeze Dry or Specs Blizzard along those lines, because it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pleasant. No ice resists here for that, so that's going to be a big player, I'm sure. Also having the Vaporeon to try to counter the Dracovish is nonsense. Very smart on her part. Although Vish just kind of, we know what Vish can do. It just kind of OHKOs things. So having 2 Mons on your team that can't be OHKO'd by that thing with the Vaporeon and the Dragonite, with its multi-scale, I think it's going to be really good for her. The Ferrothorn can be quite annoying as long as it stays away from the Incineroar. Vikavolt looks like it has a field day here. Just clicks Volt Switch if it's like a spec set and does big damage. And Umbreon very much walls a lot of these things except for Terrakion. Maybe the Slurpuff, depending on what set it is. It also has the Mudsdale to switch into stuff like that. and deal with those. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one goes. Let's go ahead and pop into the match and give it a look. Alright, we see Vikavolt lead against the Incineroar, and immediately he's got to switch out there. He can't be taking those kind of damage, and you get a nice little bit of chip on that Politoed, and ooh, that's some spicy tech. That's some spicy tech. I like that eject button. That is clean. That was a clean way to get Dracovish in. That was very, very cool, James. Really appreciate that. It's unfortunate, I'm sure, that it had to get used so early, but it does immediately pressure the Incineroar. It immediately pressures Yasmin to act accordingly to deal with this thing. So, nice double here. Ooh! That was risky. That was such a risky play. Like, in theory, right, you always go Vaporeon there, right? Like, you always go Vaporeon there. James made the read that made sense, right, in that moment. That Vaporeon was coming in because, obviously, Incineroar doesn't want to stay in with a Vicious Rend, right? So for her to stay in there, predicting him to switch, predicting that is a bonkers play. An absolute bonkers play. So risky, but like very high risk, but incredibly high reward there. It turned out to work really, really well in her favor. Getting the Dragonite in here against the Ferrothorn. A weakened Ferrothorn, no less. Running the Hurricane to take advantage of the rain. Does get the confusion there, but doesn't hit itself as it's able to get the Leech Seed off. Pop that Multiscale as well, which is really nice. Does hit itself here, though. Very unfortunate. But still getting that Leech Seed recovery, so kind of mitigating that nonsense. Another hit on itself as the Incineroar does come back in. That's very unfortunate. And she's just going to be able to parting shot out here as the Ferrothorn is forced out. Umbreon goes to the Toxic as the Slurpuff goes for the sub, and it is a sub Calm Mind to Slurpuff. That is a demonic set to have to deal with here. That is a very, very scary set. I'm going to have to go into Ferrothorn here to try to deal with that. Just keeps calm-minded, man. Just keeps calm-minded. But Power Up's going to be able to break the substitute straight away. Now she's going to get her Citrus Berry. This Slurpuff is living comfortably. I'm going to go on into the Politoed here, take the Draining Kiss into Energy Ball and die. I don't know why he switched there. I guess maybe he was scouting for Flamethrower, but now that he sees that this thing literally can't touch Ferrothorn at all, Draining Kiss is doing 17%. And even though it does give back a decent amount, the Iron Barb completely balances out whatever she's getting back for that. So that's really good for him. And Power Up does an absurd amount of damage. Yeah, look, she's going to get 35 back, and she loses 13 from the Rocky Helmet and the Iron Bar. Ugh. Yeah, so Draining Kiss doesn't do anything, and the Ferrothorn's going to be able to pick that thing off. So, I mean, if she had Flamethrower there, I think it could have possibly beat the Ferrothorn, and very well probably could have beat the rest of the team almost by itself, which is really interesting. Oh my. Oh, we need to talk about that problem. Oh, lordy. Okay, so we see the Hurricane able to take out the Ferrothorn, which is very good for her. And then we get to see the Mudsdale come in. Mudsdale's like, alright, cool, I got this. I got rock moves. We gonna deal with this nonsense. So, Rock Slide comes out. Does not do much. I assume he's not invested. I assume he's not offensively invested because it's a Mudsdale. Typically tends to be more of a defensive mon. 44% and a weakness policy pop. Oof. So, gonna preserve the money there and go out into the Vish. Young Vishingtons. Take the Surf. Got a crit and even still only took 24%. That 4 times resist. Very nice. And now the Vape comes in on the Dracovish. As it takes an Iron Head. I don't know if he was predicting like Manelix or something to come in, or maybe he was just hoping that like she'd stay in and get an Iron Head. He might have calculated and seen an Iron Head killed I'm going to see the webs come out as Draco Meteor comes out from the Dragonite. So this is a fully special Dragonite. Very cool stuff. Unfortunately, she couldn't utilize the weakness policy well enough, but it is what it is. We're going to see Umbreon live a close combat. First of all, that's some bonkers nonsense. That's crazy. So, living that close combat is huge. Being able to get that wish up is really big. I don't know if that was a roll. I don't know what his spread was, but that's really, really cool stuff. Being able to get that wish into Mudsdale is also very huge. Not only getting the stamina defense boost, but being able to get that up is really nice. Rocks go up now for James, which is very, very cool. Draco is not going to do enough to this Mudsdale, and now it's going to be able to pick off the Dragonite, which is very nice, very nice. In comes the Vanillux. It's going to take those webs, it's going to take those rocks, and it's going to fire off a nice Freeze Dry. And in comes the Vikavolt, and that Freeze Dry did so much damage. Got the Freeze. Ooh. Hoo, 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 hoo. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. That's a oofies. That's some oofies. That's big. That's a big freeze. Because Vikavolt is strong as fuck. It very well probably could have killed the Vanillux there. I do strongly believe that. And then it would have been able to stick around to potentially deal with the Vaporeon later. Potentially get a wish passed into it or something to be able to deal with the Vaporeon so that Vish could run amok. Because at this point, a Scarf Dracovish, which I wouldn't be surprised for him to be, a Scarf Dracovish would just run the remaining three, right? Would just run the remaining two at that point. Just runs through Incineroar and Terrakion, no problem. So, unfortunately, losing the Vikavolt there that way, that's really, really tough. It is what it is. Like, it's just kind of the situation you end up in. Unfortunately, Umbreon's too low. He's going to die there to the Scald. And then this thing, it doesn't care. Misses the Toxic, which is very unfortunate. But I don't think it matters at this point. He had to lock himself into Leech Life to even do damage to this thing. So she's able to get a Toxic off on this Dracovish, and then just kind of sit here and wish up and let the Dracovish slowly but surely die. I'll just put this on fast so we can kind of get through this a little bit quicker, because let's be real, we all know exactly what's happening here. There's no world where the Dracovish gets through this. He would need to crit 17 times and somehow find a way to make this thing unable to wish up, which there's just no universe where that's even remotely possible. And yeah, it's just it is what it is. The freeze definitely sucked, but it was because it could have potentially swung back in James's favor after that, but a well-played game by both sides. Both sides utilized all their tools appropriately, so definitely an interesting game to watch. And Yasmin picking up a Week 1 victory, which she said she doesn't typically do. She said she doesn't typically get Week 1 wins, so congratulations to her for that. James, I'm sure, will bounce back because he's James. He is dope. So he will absolutely bounce back for sure. And hopefully Yasmin will be able to continue the momentum going forward. The next match we have here is going to be one of our newest coaches, Daryl, and his Toffee Tyrannotars, taking on Jason, who was a replacement coach last season. and his South Aussie Slow Kings. Ignore the fact that his showdown name is Adelaide Slow Kings. He is going by the South Aussie Slow Kings. Although I'm sure he has a logo for it already made, let's be real. So we see on Daryl's side, Daryl is actually he was the... I'm trying to remember. I believe he is the D-League... the most recent D-League champion. And Eric and the East Coast Aegis Slashers were the D-League runner-up. I believe. I'm not... Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me. But I do believe that is how it shaped out. But he has the Excadrill, Amoonguss, Mienshao, Ribombee, Raboot, and Luxray. Love seeing Luxray. Like, it's nice to see the Tier 5 mons getting brought out week 1. Love that. Love Raboot and Luxray popping out week 1. That's pretty hype stuff. Against the Slow Kings with their Weezing, Blissey, Goodra, Celesteela, Regieleki, and Zarude. A lot of late generation power backed up by a very strong, very commanding early gen wall core. Very good stuff. Really cool looking stuff going on here. I love the way I love how bulky Jason's team looks here, like, and how it complements each other. Like, two great Spadef walls with one of the better physical walls to come out of the earlier generations. It's a really nice combination. Regieleki is going to have a tough time getting going in this match, with both the Amoonguss and the Luxray being very strong resists to it. If it's an Intimidate Luxray, a physical set of Regieleki isn't going to get anywhere. And, of course, Amoonguss is fat. Plus, having the immunity in Excadrill is definitely not a pleasant day to be Regieleki, but I've seen many times Regieleki kind of just not care about these things, find a way around them. Yeah, a lot of people who draft Regieleki tend to be good at working around the limited move pool that Regieleki has. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jason does that in this one. The Ribombee looks potentially threatening against a lot of things on the opposing team. If it has Psychic, it can break through the Weezing. And it can deal with the Zarude very well. Raboot also has an incredibly strong matchup here because it's just a strong mon, and not a lot of things on that side. I want to take like a banded hit from Raboot. Weezing, if Weezing goes down early, Raboot can really have a field day here. Hey, Mother Nature, can you maybe fucking chill? I don't know if y'all heard that. That thunder crack. Massive. That was nasty. I hope I don't lose power. That would suck. Mid-recording would be absolutely atrocious. Anyways, let's just go ahead and get into the matchup and let's see how this one played out. You see Luxray lead here against the Zarude. Kovu, love the nickname, is Air Balloon. Loses that balloon early to the Zarude U-turn as he fires off an Ice Fang. Very nice, packing them fangs. And we see Roger Rabbit come in here on the Sludge Bomb. Again, loving the nicknames here, friend. Has that Libero, goes for the U-turn, gets out of here, brings in the Mold Breaker Excadrill on the Sludge Bomb. Smart switch in. This thing, a Mold Breaker Excadrill, I neglected to mention, has a really good matchup here against literally everything but this. Like, if Daryl can remove the Celesteela quickly, Mold Breaker Excadrill can kind of wreck almost everything else. Like, he'd have to take a hit from Zarude, which I'm sure probably is packing close combat. But other than that, like if he's like a Choppleberry set, he just runs the team. And there's no debate on that. Which is really scary. So he's got the Swords Dance up, but he's going to have to switch here. Logan, I like the reference to the boy, the homie. Oh, God, Jason, you dirty bastard. Leech Seed protect Celesteela. I'm disgusted by you. He's running the Blaze Kick, which is very interesting over Flare Blitz. Definitely, I think it's something that needs a little bit more of the power. He's going to fire off a Psychic Fangs here on the Weezing, get a decent chunk of damage off, but he's going to get burned for his troubles. Very unfortunate. Are you sus? It's an Among Us reference. I love it. We are going to see a double here into Mulan the Mienshao as the Celesteela comes in. Bulk up on the Mienshao and fires off a Blaze Kick. He's loving that Blaze Kick. Life Orb Blaze Kick, but it misses out on the kill, and Air Slash is able to pick it up. Yikes. That is huge damage. I was not expecting it to actually be able to pick up the KO. Not gonna lie. I'm going to hard reboot here on the Blissey as it sets up the rocks. And firing off a nice Libero stab U-turn. Getting some big damage off as we do see the Excadrill in here. And with the Celesteela as low as it is, this could be a good situation. Now, we haven't seen the item yet on this thing. Of course, he's forced out by the Zarude. It does indeed reveal the close combat here, so he is going to have to be careful with that. Celesteela comes in here as the reboot is now brought back in. Unfortunately, those rocks taking their toll. Going to fire off a Blaze Kick here into the incoming Weezing. Fire off a Gunk Shot. Very interesting to go for the Gunk Shot there. I guess to try to resist the Sludge Bomb, which is a very interesting play. Very interesting play. Unfortunately, it does not work. The reboot is indeed killed. We see the Bombi come out here and set up a Quiver Dance. Goodra, however, does not care. Just doesn't care. And takes just over half. Surprised that it's a 2 KO, to be completely honest. I'm surprised it was a 2 KO. This takes nothing. But the webs do go up now, and that is a problem for the Slowkings if they can't get this thing taken care of. Seismitoss here onto the Excadrill. Honestly, I genuinely... I don't know if he had it on his moveset. We've only seen Swords Dance Earthquake. If he went for a Rapid Spin there, because Blissey wasn't killing him with another Seismitoss. We've already seen it does 28% to him. If he went for a Rapid Spin there, right, and gets a little lower, unless the Regieleki can kill him with, I don't know, Swift or Hyper Beam, I don't really think he had much to worry about there, in that sense. He needed the speed boost to be able to deal with the Zarude. I don't know if the Zarude is scarfed, but with the webs up now, it doesn't really matter. So if he got that speed boost up and then killed the Blissey, which he could still do just as easily, I think that might have been a good thing for him to go for. I think he would have benefited greatly from that, because the Zarude is going to reveal that it is indeed scarfed. That's how it outspeeds there, and then going to be able to take out the Excadrill. So I don't know if he had Rapid Spin or not. I'm unaware of that. If he did, that would have been the play in my opinion. But obviously hindsight's 20/20. I'm watching this after the fact. Obviously, like, in the moment, you're not thinking of these kind of things half the time. So unfortunately, this burned Luxury is not going to get too far. He's just going to chip this thing down as the Weezing's going to eventually be able to just take it out. And now it's just Amoonguss versus the world. And, well, Sapsipper Goodra says hi. Gigadrain's not going to do anything. Flamethrower's going to do a decent chunk. Sludge Bomb is just not doing enough. Goodra's too much of a Spadef tank. I'm sure it's probably like a Salt Vest or something. So he's going to Toxic it here. But I think it's one of those too little too late moments unless he has the Synthesis. But it does not reveal it here, so I don't believe he did. He probably had Spore as his last move, more than likely. And unfortunately, that means he can't touch Celesteela, which can just come in here and click the Air Slash and claim its final KO. Picking up a big 5-0 win for the Slowkings here. While the differential doesn't show it, this definitely was a very close game. And depending on if he had Rapid Spin or not, I do believe that in that situation against the Blissey, I believe that Excadrill could have made this a much, much closer matchup, if not just picked up a free 6-0, in my opinion. Obviously, I don't know what all the Regieleki had on its set. It definitely would have been able to outspeed him, but I don't know if it would have been enough to KO, because obviously Reggie's moveset is kind of meh. It can't really touch ground types that well. So it would have been interesting to see. Unfortunately, did not come to fruition, and the Slowkings are able to pick up a huge, commanding Week 1 win. Very good for them. Hopefully he'll be able to bounce back going forward. He did incredibly well, obviously, in D-League, and hence why he's even here. So, clearly the dude knows what he's talking about. Clearly the dude knows what he's doing. I've been calling him Daryl. I don't know why I had Daryl in my head. I apologize completely. His name is Darren. I thoroughly apologize. I've been saying the wrong name the whole time, and I just feel stupid. Anyways, moving on from that, I will make sure to be better with that going forward. I apologize. Moving on to our next matchup. The next matchup we have is my match, me, PokePrimer, Jeff, all of the above, and the Anaheim Appletons taking on Shawnee and the newly named Z Guardian Cocos. Two teams that I drafted facing off. I revealed it in my video for this, which is going up after this, but I basically drafted the team. Thought it would be funny, and here we are facing off Week 1. It's kind of funny. So we see he brings the Dragapult, Jirachi, Sylveon, Suicune, Drapion, and the Charizard, as I decided to bring Galarian Slowking, Rotom-Spook, Keldeo, Bouffalant, Zoroark, and the Corviknight. So Corviknight has a very nice matchup here against pretty much everything for the most part, just because of how bulky it is. But the Charizard is definitely a problematic threat to say the least. Keldeo also has a fun time here, but obviously getting past the monster that is Suicune is always a problem. Bouffalant's natural bulk is going to have to come into play in a lot of cases here. There's a lot of situations where it's going to have to switch in. So, gonna see how well that performs. Let's go ahead and show you how this match played out. I obviously already know. We switch sides. We put me on the left here. Let's be real. We put me on the left. No, let's go back. That requires more editing on my part, because I already put the logos up for each team, so I'm just going to leave it like that. So let's go ahead and pop this game going on. Let's see what's going down. So he leads with the Drapion, as I lead with the quote-unquote Slowking. He's going to go for the knockoff immediately. Unfortunately, I lose the Rocky Helmet on Corviknight, which makes things a little bit more difficult with the Jirachi later. For some reason, the Suicune does not want to appear on the screen right away. He goes for the Skull. Thankfully, does not get the burn, as I'm going to U-turn out here. Force him out with the Rotom that doesn't have an electric move. Lol. Go for the Will-O-Wisp and get the burn on the Sylveon here. I go hard into Bouffalant, who has the soundproof to stop the Hyper Voice. I knew Jirachi was coming in here, so I fired off a Throat Chop just to get some good super effective damage off on it. Now I can go hard into my Corviknight, as unfortunately I get paralyzed, which really sucks. He's able to set up his rocks now, as I'm just going to be able to roost, which is also nice, but He's going to go into the Charizard, as I believe I was trying to U-turn there. Unfortunately, do not get that off, as I have to go into my actual Slowking now. Take the Flamethrower and then take the Scorching Sands. It doesn't do much damage. I'm able to get the Para on the Charizard, which is great for me. Now I get the Slack off as he goes into the Dragapult. Thankfully, I'm able to just stay in here, because I was Kasiba Berry on the Slowking, so I didn't have to worry about whatever this thing was going to do. I lived any one hit from it, which is great. So I just fired off a Thunder Wave, because I want this thing slow. and now I make it slow. So now I go into Corviknight here, as it does get fully parried. I don't know if he was going for the U-turn or something. That would have probably been his best play, in my opinion. So I go back into... I get a U-turn off as he goes into Sylveon. I get to go back into my Slowking here, and I can get back up to full health, which is great because my Zoroark is being hidden as the Slowking, so now I can keep it hidden better. Go back into Corviknight on the knockoff, because obviously I don't have item anymore, and I can Roost up as he goes into the Dragapult. He fires off the Flamethrower here, which is perfectly fine, because I'm just going to fire off a Brave Bird. I get a big chunk of damage off on this thing. Now I can just kind of Roost spam against the Flamethrower. I can kind of use my pressure to stall out the Flamethrowers a little bit. I'm going to put this on a little bit faster, because this is a bit of a long match. This is a longer match, for sure. It's a bit of a battle of attrition, almost, between the two of us, which is kind of fun. So he's going to keep going for the Flamethrowers here. I do get paralyzed there, which makes it a little bit more annoying, but it is what it is. I'm still able to get myself roosted up here against him. So he's going to go now into the Suicune as I roost back up to full, which is dope. He goes for a Calm Mind as I U-turn out, so I'm like, ah, crap. So I go directly out into my Zoroark, and I knock him off and get rid of the chest over here. Now I go for a Throat Chop here. I don't remember if it was a roll or not. I don't remember if I calced it or not. I don't think it was a roll. But I was hoping. I was hopeful. Unfortunately, it's just barely shy of being able to pick up the KO. And he's going to be able to fire off the Scald here. Now, thankfully, he didn't go for rest. Thankfully, he did not go for rest there, because that would have been very annoying. I would have had to resort to psyching up with Rotom or trying to Calm Mind up myself with Keldeo, and that would have just been annoying. But he decides to just go for the Scald and take out my Zoroark here. But now I'm able to go into Keldeo and just click Scald. I don't have to think about it. And I can just take the thing out. So he goes back into the Sylveon. He decides to Mystical Fire here. Initially, obviously predicting the Bouffalant to come in. Boof is just too fat. I go for the Iron Head, get some nice chip damage off on the Drapion. Now I can go into Corviknight, as he actually goes for the Poison Jab here. Does no damage because I'm immune, and I can get a Brave Bird onto the Charizard. Once again, I can use my Slowking to sponge hits from Charizard, not have to worry about it. I can Slack off in front of its face. Scorching Sands does not do much, but he does pick up the burn. Listen, I've used that move plenty of times, and I still have not gotten a burn with it, so to my memory, so good for him. Goes for the Iron Head here as I Future Sight. He goes into Jirachi as I Future Sight, and then he gets an Iron Head flinch, which kind of stinks. Would have liked to Thunder Wave this thing, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. Going to Rotom here on the Iron Head. You can take that. Yeah, he takes no damage on the Future Sight. I can just fire off a Hex here for free, though, and it does do a decent little chunk to the Sylveon here. I can go now hard into Bouffalant, and he sets up a Wish. I get an Iron Head flinch, which is fine. I think the best he would have been able to do there is either set up like a Calm Mind or go for like Mystical Fire. Get a little bit more chip damage. I Throat Chop the Jirachi twice here as it comes in, and then Thunder Waves me. Then I get Iron Headed on my Rotom and fire off a little bit of a Hex. Get some good damage off, but he's going to be able to take me out with the Zen Head. But I don't believe the crit mattered. I think like the min damage was 44, so unless he got a min roll on that and crit me, then it would be a problem, but yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But going to Keldeo here, and we're able to take it out with a Secret Sword. So we're keeping pretty even this whole game so far. 4-4. I go into Bouffalant here as I actually... he gets fully parried here. Very unfortunate for him. But I eat my Citrus Berry as I come in. So my natural bulk is amazing, and I'm able to take him out with a Throat Chop. And he Fire Fangs here. He gets the Fire Fang flinch. I was like, oh, bleh. Unfortunate. Because I have Facade, so Facade would kill here. I was like, okay, he did 17%, I'm pretty much dead here. But he gets the lower roll of 15%, and I'm able to live on one and get off a Facade and bop this thing out of existence, which is brilliant. He's going to be able to take me out with the Charizard, but Keldeo's going to be able to come in here and just click Scald and KO him, which is great for me. Keldeo putting in a lot of work week 1 here. Mystical Fire coming off here as I get to slack off with Slowking. And this is a bit of a long exchange. Sylveon just keeps clicking Hyper Voice and or Mystical Fire against the Slowking here. Just healing itself up as Slowking just keeps firing off Sludge Bombs, potentially hoping for a crit or something, you know, to be able to get through this thing. And he just keeps chipping us down, chipping us down, chipping us down. And then, I don't know when he finally clicks it. I don't remember when he clicks it exactly. But he clicks it soon. There it is. He clicks the Calm Mind button. He clicks the Calm Mind button, and I'm immediately like, oh, crap. Crap. I was very terrified at this point. So, the Slowking's going to switch out here. I go into Keldeo because I'm like, I need to do something to this thing that gets actual damage off. So I go for a Secret Sword. I know it resisted, but it hits on the physical side, so I can at least get solid damage off. Then I go into Corviknight here, and I ran this calc later on. It was a roll. I think it was like 58 point something to like 67 or 68% or something like that was the roll. I needed to get lucky to live this hit. I needed pure luck to live this hit. Because if I die here, I lose. Because he could just Mystical Fire spam against Slowking, and Slowking can never break this thing. Which sucks. So, unless I get a crit. But Tokoyami lives on 2% and is able to get off an Iron Head and KO the Sylveon. So, got very, very lucky there in the end. A lot of hacks in this match. A lot of back and forth hacks in this match. This was a crazy, crazy matchup. Full paras and Fire Fang flinches and a whole mess of stuff. A whole mess of stuff took place in this game. But we were able to pick up a 2-0 win. Shawnee will obviously bounce back, but Shawnee's great. Plus he's using a draft I gave him, so like obviously he's gonna do well. And hopefully we can keep up the momentum. You know, after having a really rough season last season, it's about time to have a good time, you know. So yeah, good stuff. Moving on to the next one. For our next matchup, we have Nate and the Baltimore Honchcrows, my fellow commissioner and a fellow goat of the NPBF community alongside James. Taking on the other member of our division, because these are our divisional matches, as you guys know how we do things around here by now. First 3 weeks and last 3 weeks are divisional matchups, so cool stuff. We have Nate and his Honchcrows taking on Liam, a coach that came up last season and don't think he dropped a game until playoffs. I think he might have gone into playoffs with like 11. He was either like 13-0. Like he went in with a stupid high record. I'm pretty sure he had the best record of the season by a fucking mile when he went into playoffs last season. So, dude is incredibly talented. Such a good player. Really, really happy to have him around here. Very good stuff. So we see on Nate's side, we see the Kieran Black, which is not allowed to use Dragon Dance. Grimmsnarl, Porygon 2, Gastrodon, Shuckle, and Jolteon. And then we see on Liam's side, he has the Conkeldurr, the Mawile, which is really cool, seeing that out here week 1. Love that with the Mawile. We have the Melodic, Crocodile, Tapu Koko, and the Latias. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop into this one and see what takes place. Koko leads here against the Shuckle, and it gets taunted immediately. No mental error here on the Shuckle, so no stealth rocking. And we're going to see the Koko U-turn out on the incoming Gastro. Gastro has the Rocky Helmet, though, which is very cool. Not going to keep that for long, though. The Conkeldurr is going to decide to knock that off. But we see a counter from the Gastrodon. That is huge. Huge damage coming off from Gastrodon. By the way, love the nicknames here. Really love the nicknames here on the side of Liam. He has the My Hero Academia inspired nicknames. I don't know why Toxic there. Might have been a misclick. Might have just been predicting the Mawile to switch. I don't really know why the Mawile would switch there, though. Maybe, no, I think, he might have Toxic because I think he was thinking of like an Iron Head. He would live the Iron Head, and then the red card would pop up, forcing the Mawile out, and then he gets to Toxic something else. I actually think that was... I see that now that he knocked off the red card. It was very interesting. But I like the nicknames All Might for Conkeldurr, Real Steel for Mawile being Tetsu. Mount Lady for Melodic, that's an interesting one. I personally call my Melodics Nejire. I just think she looks a little bit closer to Melodic in my opinion, but Mount Lady is a fantastic character as well in her own right. And we've seen Hawks the Tapu Koko. Very cool stuff. Love Hawks. A much deeper character as time goes on. So very, very cool stuff. So you see the Super Fang out here on the Shuckle. And he goes with the Toxic again, which is very interesting. I don't know why he keeps going for Toxic. The Mawile definitely has no reason to switch here. He gets up the webs now. So that's going to be very crucial going forward. Grimmsnarl eats its weakness policy here, which is very interesting. Then sets up the Reflect. Would have figured he would have set the Reflect before the first Iron Head. I think that was a misplay. I definitely think that was a misplay. The Mawile, clearly had the advantage there. If he set the Reflect here, taken that lesser damage and gotten the weakness policy, then he would have been able to break through this thing, I think. Thanks to the already lower damage plus being +2/+2. But again, like hindsight makes things more clear. Mawile picking up 2 kills though. That's incredibly impressive for a tier 5 Mon. Or I guess E tier. For how we have it set up. So Mawile putting in crazy work. We're going to see the Kyurem come in here. It is not holding the boots. It's going to be able to go for that Earth Power. And unfortunately, the Shuka Berry is not going to be enough to save the Mawile here. But very good bring on Liam's part. We see Koko come in here and die immediately to the Earth Power. So this thing is a Life Orb Kyurem Black. That's dropping it every time. Ryukyu. Oh, nice choice for the nickname on that one. The Calm Mind. Ooh. Ooh. I love all of what happened this turn. The Calm Mind saved Latias from Kyurem Black's Draco. Just barely saved it. And then it pops its weakness policy. Ooh. That is dirty. That is dirty. Dirty. I love that. There's no light screen up now, so obviously we have a +3 Latias here, able to do some nonsense. And now, with the -2 on Kyurem, its Ice Beam's not doing anything, Draco's not doing anything now that he has the +1 on his Spadef. He can just recover up and not care. And he's +3 now, so it doesn't even matter anymore. This Latias can just Calm Mind up in front of this Porygon too. Shadow Ball's going to come out, but it's not going to do enough. And we have a stored power Latias, and that's just GG at that point. Unless you somehow outspeed this thing and crit it, that's just GG's, my dude. This stored power Latias is just going to clean up the game, clean up the remainder of the team, and that's just going to be a fine GG. We see Throat Spray on the Jolteon, which is pretty cool. I genuinely always forget that Throat Spray is even an item. 100% forget Throat Spray is even an item. So I'm very, very, very cool to have that reminder. I need to remember that going forward, because I have like Meloetta in a Natdex League and stuff. I might be able to use Throat Spray there. I don't know. We'll see. But very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Very impressed by that. Picking up 4 kills. That's a really, really strong Latias right there. Nate will surely bounce back. I won't let him bounce back personally, but like maybe he can beat Shawnee week 3. That's okay. That's allowed, but not next week. Next week you're not allowed. But yeah, our division's starting off strong. Let's move on to the next set of matches. Next up, we have the Battle of the Sand teams. Not so much sand as in like they have sand, but it's the Bridgeport Sandicon is coached by Deshaun, taking on our boy Darius and his Sacramento Sandstorms. So The Sand Boys taking each other on. Deshaun had a hell of a season last season, put in a crazy amount of work. This season, it's time to see who shall shine. And the shine is... Deshaun's shine is going to start with this lovely Pikachu here. This really cool Pikachu. I believe this is, Pikachu World. I think this is the Journey's hat Pikachu, if I remember correctly, which is really cool. Love that. So we get the Pikachu, the Meowstic, the Silvally, which he revolutionized last season, made us boost it up a tier in by himself, even though I personally always highly value Silvally over pretty much everything else in C tier. It's now a B tier. Again, he made the thing look so good last season. It's like, how could we not bump it up? The Nihilego, the Tangrowth, and the Garchomp. As Darius has the Chandelure, the Lando T, Roserade, Tapu Lele, Lycanroc Dusk, and the Scrafty. So, basically, looking at the matchup here, Lele, obviously, depending on what the typing is of the Silvally, Lele is always a threat. Psyshock plus Moonblast just kind of smacks everything on the team. Very, very scary, very strong mon. Lycanroc is also always a threat. You can have access to play rough to hit the Garchomp. And, of course, the Roserade could potentially cause a lot of issues with hazard stacking. Hazard stacking could be a problem here, although Silvally could also be running Defog. As for Deshaun's side, we do have the Meowstic, which could potentially be screens, and that could be very, very big issue for Darius, unless he has like things like Infiltrator, Chandelure, stuff like that. But very, very strong teams on both sides. The Silvally, obviously, you never know what type it's going to be until it comes out and fucks your day up. So it could always be a thing. And Nihilego got a lot of powerful tools this generation as well. Same with Garchomp, so a lot of really strong mons over here, and I just want to see what Pikachu does. I hope Pikachu gets to come out and do something, because I just want to see him I want to see Deshaun really, like, use Pikachu this season. I want to see him do some crazy shit with Pikachu. I really hope he gets to do so. I really hope so, because that would be so cool to me. I just think that'd be dope. I want to see Deshaun pick up a bunch of kills with Pikachu, because Pikachu's such a fun mon to use. I've personally never had the balls to draft it in Draft League. I've never had the guts to do it. But seeing him do it now, he might inspire me. He might just inspire me to do it. I might just have to go there. It might be time. If I find the right... If I have a free spot on a team, I might just do it. So let's go ahead and watch this matchup and see what takes place. We see the Lando lead against the Garchomp. No nicknames. Disappointing. Garchomp's just going to SD in this Lando's face because he knows he can't touch him. Knocked off, loses his rough skin. He has the Psychic Seed. This man! I have to appreciate the prep, because obviously he brought the Psychic Seed. He wanted to get that def boost to potentially be able to deal with the Lele a little bit better. That's pretty cool stuff. Do appreciate that a lot. Both men set up their rocks like gentlemen. He goes for the Poison Jab, maybe predicting him to just switch out at this point. Very interesting. We're just going to spam the Poison Jab, also potentially trying to get the Poison, I guess, against the Lando. Fortunately, the Lando's going to be able to take him out here. Meowstic's going to come in, do what Meowstic does. It's going to set up that Reflect before losing the Light Clay, so we're going to have that nice Reflect for 8 turns here. Gets a 5-turn Light Screen up, and the U-turn is not going to be able to pick up the KO here. Unfortunate for Darius. We see the Tangrowth come in here as the Scrafty sets up a Dragon Dance. This Scrafty is making itself a massive threat. And now it goes to bed. Now it has gone to bed. It is a sleepy Scrafty. We see the Leech Seed come out here from the Tangrowth. A knockoff from the Tangrowth as well, getting rid of the Scrafty's Life Orb. So its damage output is completely mitigated, and it's just going to keep Dragon Dancing. This thing just doesn't care. It gets Giga Drained here with the Leech Seed. Ice Punch comes out. With that Reflect up, that did nothing. That just did. Tangrowth is a monster. Tangrowth is such a monster. It just did not care. It didn't care at all. Super effective Ice Punch, +3, who cares? That's crazy. Even with a Reflect up, that's such little damage. Nihilego comes in here, eats that Flamethrower up from Chandelure really nicely, and fires off a strong Sludge Wave. Lando takes a decent chunk from that. Tangrowth gets knocked off here, loses its leftovers, but that's fine. It's Tangrowth, he doesn't care. Super effective U-turn, 28%, not a problem. Not a problem at all. We're going to see a knockoff into the Roserade as it loses its Black Sludge. Pikachu comes in hard. This man went hard Pikachu and Nasty Plotted in this thing's face. He didn't even care. And Thunderball's going to be able to take out the Roserade. This man got killed with Pikachu week 1. This is absolute mad lad. Unfortunately, the Scarf Chandelure is going to be able to take out Pikachu, but like Pikachu did his job. Pikachu did exactly what he needed to do. This man brought Lumberry Silvally normal. This lad brought Lumberry Silvally normal and then SD'd as the Lando came in. Earthquake doesn't matter. Multi-attack, you fucking die. That's a +1 base 120 of power multi-attack. You're dying from that. The Chandelure locks himself into Psychic. I assume he's Scarfed. Obviously, thanks to outspeeding the Silvally here. I assume he's Scarfed. But the Neolego's going to come in, click that Power Gem button, and just run through the team. I'm surprised he didn't go for Excel Rock there, because obviously Rock doesn't resist Rock, and Neolego's physical defense is pretty dog shit. I don't know if the Excel Rock might have been able to take out the Neolego, depending on the set. But Tough Claw's boosted Excel Rock does a decent chunk of damage. So, I don't know if it would have been able to take it out, but that could have been something he might have been able to consider there. But the Neolego is going to be able to just clean up, as Ultra Beasts tend to do. They just come in. If they're faster than the team, they just click buttons and win. And it's simple as that. Ultra Beasts are still stupid. And it's proven here once again by Deshawn. Another solid showing by Deshawn. Darius, unable to pick up the win here, but I'm sure he will bounce back. He's a solid competitor. Always has been a solid competitor, and I'm sure he will do well going forward in the season. So without further ado, let's go ahead and watch our next match. On to our next match, we have Jesse and the J-Dog Jolteons taking on good old Rennie and his Los Angeles Darkrais. Rennie is the many-time champion, has won this league more times than he should be allowed to, because fuck you, Rennie. Stop winning all the time. He's got how many fucking championships? Fucking check this shit in a second. Fucking 4 of them. He's won 4 times, for God's sakes. Fucking mad lad. So he's not allowed to win anymore. We've already told him he gets kicked from the league if he wins number 5, so that's just plain and simple there. Sorry, Rennie, it's the facts. But Rennie versus Jesse here. We see Jesse brings the Zeraora, the Galarian Articuno, Rhyperior, Frostmoth, Mesprit, and the Cinderace, as Rennie has the Metagross, Rhydon, Kartana, Tapu Fini, Venusaur, and Torkoal combination. Now, obviously, the big key factor here is Cinderace. Cinderace is terrifying in this matchup. It literally has the exact coverage it needs to hit everything on this team super effectively, except for the Torkoal. But literally, like a Pyro Ball, Gunk Shot, High Jump Kick, U-Turn moveset completely messes up this team. Horribly. So, very, very scary thoughts here. Plus, honestly, like Pyro Ball plus Torkoal's Sun is just a threatening thing to have to switch into. You don't want to have to do it. Rhydon and Tapu Fini are still not going to appreciate it when they have to. One thing I will preface, I don't know how much work this thing puts in. There was a mess up. He got his trades in, I believe, fairly late in the week prior, before the week started. I think he got it in on the Saturday prior to when week 1 started. He dropped 2 Mons and picked up Frostmoth and Chargebug. They were not updated on the document, so Rennie did not prep for Frostmoth and Chargebug, I don't believe. So I don't know how much Frostmoth puts into the game, but I just wanted to make that a clear thing beforehand. It was a mess up on our part. We just missed it and didn't get it on the dock appropriately in time. Definitely going to do our best to stay more on top of those things going forward. But hopefully it doesn't impact the match. I haven't watched the match yet, so we'll see. Zeraora, always a threat, outspeeds everything. But, like, you can never count out Venusaur when there's a Torkoal next to it. You can never count it out because it's a monster. So let's go ahead and see how this match goes. And yeah, so we see the Zeraora lead here as the Rhydon leads with it. We don't see an immediate Grass Knot come out, which would have been interesting. Rhydon goes for the Stone Edge here. Very smart, I think, to go for the Stone Edge right away instead of the ground move, because obviously he has 2 switch-ins to ground moves with the Articuno and the Mesprit, both of which would not appreciate Stone Edge, but we do see the Rhyperior come in here, ballsy as anything, with the Rock Polish, as it does live the Earthquake and is able to pop a weakness policy. It gets a crit. I don't know if the crit mattered. Obviously, he's +2 attack now, but at the same time, it is a Rhydon, potentially holding Eviolite. So I don't know if the crit mattered. I have my doubts that it did, because it is a Rhyperior, and Rhyperior is a monster. But even still, you know, it's something to notice. Very cool, obviously, Rhyperior set. Rhyperior with weakness policy has been very popular this generation, from what I've noticed, mostly in VGC. It's very easy to pop Rhyperior's weakness policy and then just go in, especially on Trick Room teams. So, but very cool stuff. We're going to see the Metagross come in here immediately and Bullet Punch this thing, not messing around with leaving this thing out here for too long. Completely understandable. Goes for a Bullet Punch again. Makes me think he's probably banded. That did a lot of damage for a Bullet Punch on the Mesprit. Mesprit's not a frail boy at all. Mesprit goes for a nasty plot here as we see Rennie go into the Tapu Fini. Goes for a Shadow Ball. Does a decent chunk of damage, but it's not too spectacular. Rennie goes for the Nature's Madness. I don't know if he was predicting a switch here, or just trying to get some big, chunky chip damage off. Goes for another one here as the Mesprit nasty plots once again. Shadow Ball is going to miss out on the KO here, actually, and the Hydro Pump is going to get a crit. I don't think that mattered. I'm going to say that didn't matter, because it is a Hydro Pump, very strong move, coming off of Tapu Fini there. So I don't think that mattered. We're going to see the Zeraora Volt switch here on the Torkoal switch, as now Articuno comes in and is going to be able to Freezing Glare and take out the Torkoal. So unfortunately, he's locked into the amount of sun that he has access to at this point in time. He also can't afford to go into... That was a cool play. That was a really good play. He couldn't afford to go into Venusaur right there because of the simple fact that the Articuno was there. It could probably bulk a hit, at least one hit from Venusaur, and be able to KO it with a Freezing Glare right back. And that would just be incredibly unfortunate. So he goes into the Metagross there. Clearly, the Articuno is not packing Shadow Ball, because that's pretty much the only thing in Articuno's moveset to be able to hit Metagross. So it's going to switch out here, and he makes the balls to the wall play to click Earthquake here. I don't know exactly what he was predicting. I guess it makes sense in the broad scheme, because the two other things in the field that could come in would be the Zeraora and the Cinderace, which both resist, you know, the Steel move, which you would assume would be coming out. You would assume would be Meteor Mashing here. Earthquake play was really, really, really good. Really good play. Wipes out the Zeraora immediately. That is a huge threat gone. And then we're going to see the Frostmoth come in here. He's going to switch out, obviously, furthering the fact that he might be banded. Frostmoth goes for a Tailwind here, and the Kartana still outspeeds it and KOs it with a Smart Check. Okay, so Frostmoth had absolutely no impact on this battle whatsoever. Really good to know. Finny comes in here and dies to the Stealth Rocks, which is very, very cool. Very cool stuff. The Venusaur is going to die to the Pyro Ball. Cinderace outsped the Venusaur in Sun, which means this is probably a Choice Scarf Cinderace. I would assume it's Choice Scarf Cinderace at that point. And now Choice Scarf Cinderace has one more turn of Sun to utilize with that Pyro Ball against the Metagross, and then one more Pyro Ball since he is Scarfed. He's not Scarfed. He's banded. Wait. Huh? I'm confused. The Tailwind. I forgot about the Tailwind. Frostmoth did so little, I forgot that it existed. But man, that Tailwind out of nowhere. Making the Cinderace outspeed the Venusaur. If he had waited one more turn to bring out Venusaur, I feel like he probably also forgot about the Tailwind. I think he realistically probably could have either gone Kartana or Metagross, sacked one of those off to the Cinderace, I would say probably keep Metagross to deal with the Articuno as well. Probably definitely could have just gone Venusaur there after that, once the Tailwind petered out, and been able to take out the Cinderace. I think that would have been a very solid plan. Actually, probably could have got rid of Metagross, to be honest, because with Kartana being Scarfed, with Scarf Kartana plus Venusaur with a little bit of Sun, I think it would have been able to deal with the Articuno perfectly well. So I think Metagross could have come in, even Bullet Punched before it dropped. Would have been able to take care of it that way. That's, again, obviously in hindsight, that's just my analysis of the situation. That's how I think it could. That's how I think things could have been different. But I think if he had made that series of plays, I think he might have had a good chance to win this one. But unfortunately, the Cinderace is going to be able to click Pyro Ball a bunch of times and pick up the dub. Very well played by Jesse. The Tailwind was really cool. Very, very, very nice tech. Obviously, Frostmoth didn't do much besides that, but hey, it is what it is. Yeah, it utilized it really well, and it just worked out perfectly. So, very well played by Jesse. Unfortunate way for Rennie to start the season. Hopefully he will bounce back. He has a really strong team, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to pull that off. So, yeah, definitely an interesting way for the week to end. This was the last match that came out this past week, but we do still have one more division worth of games to go over, so let's go and hop over there. Almost done. We've cracked into the final division now, and we are seeing the Granite Giratina, coached by fellow Commissioner Alex, taking on a longtime coach of the league, Gavino, who had Randy, who Randy drafted the team for. Kind of funny. Not really sure how he feels about that, because Gavino's a bit of a memer, so he could just be memeing that he cares that he drafted it for him. So I don't know. It's Gavino. He's a strange boy. And his Venice Beach Victinis. He has the Braviary, Xurkitree, Dusclops, Chansey, his disgusting Eviolite defensive combo that he's had in the past. He made Chansey a kill leader once thanks to it. Clefable and the Galar Darm. Taking on the Rillaboom, Bisharp, Nidoqueen, Manectric, Hitmonchan, and Necrozma from the Giratina. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check this one out. So turn one, very unfortunate turn of events, as he just goes straight for an Earthquake with the Galar Darm and takes out the Nidoqueen. Very unfortunate way for the game to start. I assume, I'm going to make the assumption, I don't know what his set was. I think I have his Pokepaste in the admin chat somewhere. It's in there somewhere. I know he had it in here somewhere. I know he put it. I know he posted it. Yeah, he did post it. I'm gonna presume Yachiberry. Oh no, he's not Yachiberry. Interesting. I guess he just didn't really have a switch in. I guess he just didn't really have a switch in. He just kind of had to accept that Nidoqueen was going to drop, which is a very unfortunate way to start the game. So, yeah, just nuked immediately. Very unfortunate. Necrozma's going to be able to come in here and just go for a Toxic. Missed the Toxic on the Braviary, but the Braviary misses Toxic on Necrozma, so it's all even. Necrozma gets up a Cosmic Power, so it's Toxic. 90% accuracy, but 0% hitting rate, apparently. He does get the Toxic on the Necrozma, as it just goes for a whole bunch of Cosmic Powers. This is gross. I don't like this. He goes for Toxic on the Dusclops, but Dusclops just clicks Haze. All those Cosmic Powers, wasted. Bisharp comes in here on the Nightshade from the Dusclops. The whole nickname back rub. Dusclops do be looking like he'd give a nice back rub, though. Do be looking like it. It's going to die with the Toxic there from Necrozma, as Bisharp's going to get burned, unfortunately. Necrozma's going to come in here as the Close Combat comes out from the Braviary. Braviary is a tank. That is a Rocky Helmet Necrozma. Gross. Moonlight comes out as the Galar Darm comes back in here. clicks that U-turn, gets that Rocky Helmet damage, and brings Necrozma back down to where it was before. We see the Toxic come out onto the Clefable, and Clefable turns out to be Magikarp, and Clefable does not care. Clefable is going to say, I'm going to get rid of your Rocky Helmet for free. Love that Magikarp prevents Rocky Helmet damage. That's really cool. Double knockoffs as the Bisharp comes in and loses its Black Glasses. Very good stuff. Knockoff comes out, gets rid of the boots on the Braviary. Now Necrozma's going to come in here and tank the Brave Bird, but not enough to avoid poisons. Kill, so Braviary is going to get a nice passive kill right there. Now Rillaboom comes in and does what Rillaboom does best. Let's be real. Rillaboom is a stupid Pokemon. Banded Grassy Glide is just nuts. Kavino says in the chat, I've never beaten a team that has this stupid monkey. Well, I get it, because this thing is dumb. You got a crit on the Chansey there, which is really crazy. Like 71%. It's nuts. But yeah. Banded Rillaboom do just be a dumb Pokemon. It hits so stupid hard for no reason. It's honestly abysmal trying to switch into that thing. If you don't have Corviknight or like something that like hard resists half the team, it's nuts. Ironhead does get a flinch there on the Clefable, allowing him to be able to take it out, which really sucks for Gavino, losing the Clefable there. It's one of the few things he had that could really take a hit left. Chansey's, it can still take a hit, but it's not appreciating it. He's going to be able to take out the Manectric there with the Dazzling Gleams. But, let's be real. Rillaboom just kind of does what it does and says, hey, Xurkitree, die. In comes the Chansey. And Seism tosses the incoming Hitmonchan. Drain Punch is so good against Chansey. No matter how much you do, you're probably getting back whatever the Chansey is doing to you and more. Being able to heal back up to full off of one Drain Punch like that is crazy. He does miss the T-Wave there. That does suck. That sucks a lot. For Gavino. Missing that really sucked, because now the Hitmonchan is just able to go ahead and KO the Chansey. He goes for Bullet Punch. Eats the Flare Blitz. That is nuts to me. That's nuts that he ate that. I don't know. I wonder why he wasn't Mach Punch. I think if he was, I guess probably Bullet Punch to be able to hit Clefable a little bit better. But if he had Mach Punch, I think he would have been able to just take it out with one. I don't think he would have needed two from that range. I think Mach Punch would have probably killed. I don't know if he was Iron Fist or not, but I think Mach Punch just killed straight up. But even still, very commanding win. Hitmonchan putting in a lot of work. Hitmonchan's a really strong mon. That defensive investment, living that Flare Blitz, that's crazy. Really strong stuff. Really good stuff. Good showing by Alex week 1. Rillaboom, again, showing why Rillaboom does what Rillaboom does. Really, really well played. Good stuff. Gavino, I'm sure, will bounce back, or if he doesn't, well, he's been asking to get sent to D-League for ages now, so I don't even know. We'll see how this season goes for good old Gav. But yeah, let's move on to the final one. And for our final matchup in the week, we have the founder of the league, James, good old Lord Jameses himself, and his Memphis Bravebirds taking on, I believe, the D-League runner-up, Eric, and his East Coast Aegislashers. Eric brings the Skarm, Aromatisse, Raikou, Galarian Corsola, Volcarona, and the Zygarde, 50%. As James has the Quagsire, Entei, Mr. Rhyme, Weavile, Latios, and the Chinchino. So looking at this, first of all, 4 of the members on this team can decimate Zygarde. Triple Axle on Skill Link. Chinchino, obviously a Draco from Latios, is not going to be pretty. Weavile with any ice move, same with Mr. Rhyme. That thing is going to have a hard time doing much of anything. Let's be real. Quagsire also kind of walls it if it wants to. It can carry Ice Beam and be unaware, so even a DD set doesn't matter. If you use Rindo Berry, you can kind of also deal with, like, Quiver Dance, Volcarona if it has Giga Drain. You know, Quagsire can be very useful depending on how you built it. Raikou is always a threat because it does outspeed majority of the team bar Weavile. Right. And, Volcarona, if it gets going, can be a problem for this team. Because it does have the adequate moves to be able to break through everything, and Entei's going to have to do a lot defensively to deal with Volcarona. And Corsola can be annoying, because it's Corsola. So, let's see how this match plays out, and see which side picks up the dub. We see Cinccino lead here against the Raikou, and Raikou's going to hard switch into the Skarmory, which had the Rocky Helmet. Very good of James to just go for the knockoff right away, not go for anything Skill Link, and scary because if he went for a Skill Link move, I believe, what is it? I know someone calced it before. It's how much it does. Rocky Helmet did what? 16%, 16 times 5. So yeah, if he went for something like tail slap or something like that right off the bat, he would have lost 80% turn 1, and that would really suck. So they're good of him to just click the knockoff, get rid of the Rocky Helmet potential immediately. It was really good go for him. So he's going to be able to go hard out into the Entei as the Skarm decides to set up Stealth Rocks. Skarm's going to get burned and miss a Toxic. Very unfortunate for Eric there, missing the Toxic, because Toxic would have been very nice to have on this thing. Especially since it's the one thing that really stops Volcarona from going crazy. Aromatisse comes in here, gets burned by a Sacred Fire, and throws up a Wish, and then brings in this thing. This Galarian Corsola. I hate it. I really hate it. Okay, so he actually hard doubles here, which is very interesting. He doubles here. The Rhyme goes out into the Cinccino, and he goes into the Volcarona. I don't know what he thought he was going to get. I don't know what he thought was coming in on that. Curious as to what that turn amounted to, but Volcarona comes in here. Obviously, it knows what Cinccino carries, so it's going to switch out. It's not going to stay in on a Rock Blast. Skarm comes in, and the Rock Blast is able to do just enough damage to knock it in range of the burns. Entei's going to be able to pick up a nice passive kill with that burn. Very good stuff there. Quagsire comes in hard on the Zygarde as it goes for a Dragon Dance. I'm sure this Quagsire is unaware. Oh, that's definitely unaware. Quag. And it just fires up a Toxic. No hesitation, no debates there. It's a pretty straightforward move to click. The Zygarde reveals Grass Knot. I genuinely didn't even know Zygarde got Grass Knot. So good on Eric for having Grass Knot on his Zygarde. That was really cool to see. Never would have expected that. He goes into the Cinccino here and fires off a Tail Slap. I don't know if that would have killed otherwise. How much was he at prior to the turn? He was at 6. He was at how much percentage? 45. Okay. So if he continued to get the 9% rolls, he would have still killed anyway. Turns out this is a Choice Scarf Cinccino. He did get an 8% roll there, so the crit, I think, saved him from missing out on KO and dying. For obviously it would have died. The Cinccino would have basically died that turn if it missed out on that. If it didn't get that crit, it would have died there to 1,000 arrows or something along those lines, and that would have sucked. But thankfully for him, he got the crit, so it balanced it all out. So he goes into Volcarona here. He's gonna Tail Slap. Now I am genuinely shocked. I don't know if he's Swarm. If he's Swarm, he's crazy. But I'm genuinely shocked. With all 5 hits of that Tail Slap, this thing didn't get burned. I am genuinely surprised. That's a 30% chance on every single one of those. Listen, I did well in my stats class in college. my best friend Jarrett can attest to that, but because he was in the same stats class and we both aced that class, like it was our jobs. It was really easy. But 5 consecutive 30% chances in a row. I want to know what the odds of that is. The odds of not getting burned there is. I'm curious. If someone wants to calculate that, please do. But he misses the tail slap there. Now that, my friends, is what we call an oof. The world was like, I didn't burn you there. I'm expecting my payback. And took his tail slap hit away from him. That is incredibly crucial. Because if that landed, Volcarona gone, no longer a threat. His Cinccino sticks around. If he got lucky and didn't get burned, again, that's even better for him. Because then this thing continues to be a threat, can mess up both the Raikou and the Aromatisse later on, and also potentially be able to knock off the Galar Corsolas. Eviolite could have been something. So, unfortunate. He's going to get hit with the Fiery Dance. Gets a special attack boost. It's unfortunate that happened. Entei comes in here. As he goes for the Bulldoze. He actually went for Bulldoze there. Interesting. Not Extreme Speed. I think he might have been predicting the Raikou. I don't know if he has Extreme Speed on him either. Sacred Fire does burn the Corsola, but the Strength Sap is going to be able to heal it back up to full. Raikou comes in as the Latios comes in. Shadow Ball does more damage than I think that James was expecting. And he's going to have to go hard now out into Entei, pretty much to sack it off. Potentially, except it turns out it's basically a Solfest and a god. He misses Sacred Fire on the incoming Corsola. Definitely unfortunate. Especially now, he pretty much had to sack the Latios there, but he actually turns out to switch into the Aromatisse. So Latios is able to get a recover up, but it doesn't matter, because Aromatisse is deceptively strong. People forget how strong this mon is. A lot of the time. Aromatisse is really good. Icicle Crash comes out. He does get the flinch on the Aromatisse, saving Weavile's life. Literally just saved Weavile's existence from ending, because he would have died to a Moonblast as well. So, very cool stuff. Eric makes a lot of interesting doubles. He doubles into the Volcarona here. I guess predicting him to go Entei. If James had stayed in, I don't know what his set was. I don't know if he was banded or something like that. Doing only 45% to Aromatisse, I don't think he was banded. He wasn't Boots either. Did we see what item he was? No. I don't know what set he was, but if he just stayed in and clicked Icicle Crash again, or Knockoff or something, Volcarona just dies. And then you lose your Volcarona. But it worked out for him for sure, as he's able to get his Volcarona in, and Bug Buzz Oko's the Mr. Rhyme. Makes me kind of think he was Swarm, because Mr. Rhyme's got a lot of natural bulk. Mr. Rhyme has a lot of natural bulk. So I don't know, I just feel like the Bug Buzz shouldn't have Oko'd him without like a Swarm boost. I'm just saying, he might have been Swarm. He might have actually been Swarm. If he was, that's crazy. That's literally crazy. This man's wild. If he was Swarm. I feel it in my bones. Turns out this Raikou is Choice Scarfed. Alright. So we see Choice Scarf Raikou clicking that Aura Sphere, taking out the Weavile. And then, normally I have issue with forfeits, but it doesn't really matter in this situation because it just saved us an extra 30 seconds of our lives. Typically, like, in this kind of situation, I can kind of be okay with it because he was going to die anyway. Like, he wasn't going to be able to Oko the Raikou, the Raikou, or whatever you want to call it, anyway. And unless he, like, super mega ultra crit Bulldoze, which I don't think even would have been enough, and he still would outspeed after that anyway, and be able to KO him with Aura Sphere. Because Shadow Ball did so little earlier, like, he probably would have lived 1, but he wouldn't have lived 2. and he wasn't KOing this thing, so no matter what, the Raikou was going to pick up the kill on Entei. Whenever something like this happens, typically the way I'll calculate is whatever Mon is remaining on the field gets the kill on whatever was left over. So, like, even if he had 2 or 3 other Mons, Raikou would get all those kills. That's just how I typically calculate it. It's kind of an incentive for people not to forfeit because they don't want to just give free kills to a Mon. So Raikou ends with 2 kills anyway, so that's pretty cool for him. But yeah, very good game, very, very solid game. Definitely, like, the tail slap miss, I think was big. I think was pretty big because that was definitely a scarfed Cinccino. So the fact that that missed really, really, really sucked for James. That definitely put him heavily on the back foot. As he played perfectly fine with it up until that point, and then literally with it missing that tail slap, completely switched things around. Eric made a lot of crazy double switches around that Corsola, which definitely had me like bugging a bit. Like he had me bugging with some of those switches. Some crazy stuff be coming down there, but yeah, very solid game between the two of them. Very good stuff. Eric picking up a win week 1. Yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what the kill leaders are looking like after 1 week of action. Let's see what Mons are heading out in front of the pack early. Alright, we are here now looking at the kill leaderboard, and ladies and gentlemen, it is pretty solid, not gonna lie. We have in first place, after a commanding performance in the Calm Mind Weakness Policy set, we have Latias from the Auckland Ambipons with 4 kills, 0 deaths. Calm Mind, Weakness Policy, Store Power, it just cleaned house. It was untouchable. Absolutely a terrifying set. It really put in a lot of work. Next up, we have a tie for second place. We have Cinderace from the J-Dog Jolteons and Nihilego from the Bridgeport Sandacondas, both with 3 kills and 0 deaths for a +3 differential. Cinderace, Cinderace was given Sun, Cinderace was given some Tailwind, and it was off to the races from there. Cinderace is an absolute beast. It's always been a terrifyingly strong Mon. And with Sun support from the other team, no less, it was a tough matchup to avoid having it go crazy in, for sure. So, very impressive performance there. And Nihilego, well, it's an Ultra Beast, and Ultra Beasts do Ultra Beast things. Pretty straightforward. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing stay here for a while. Coming in fourth place, we have Keldeo from my Anaheim Appletons with 3 kills and 1 death for a +2 differential. Keldeo proving why it's been OU pretty much since its release. It's been well, I don't know if it's OU right now, I don't remember, but it's an incredibly solid Mon. Hits incredibly hard. Secret Sword is a great move. It just puts in work. It can claim kills pretty often with its really solid speed stat. So really happy with Keldeo so far, and hopefully it will continue to put in that kind of work throughout the course of the season. I'm really hopeful. And now we move to where early season kill leaders is a little bit less interesting, because we have a 6-way tie for 5th place. Celesteela from the South Aussie Slowkings, Hitmonchan from the Greenwich Giratinas, Raikou from the East Coast Aegislashers, Rillaboom also from the Giratinas, Vaporeon from the Vaporwave Vapelords, and Cantonian Weezing from the South Aussie Slowkings, once again, all sitting at 2 kills and 0 deaths. Celesteela, being the beast-boosting monster that it is, Launcher Beasts just kind of claim kills. It's what they do. Hitmonchan being a little bit more of a surprising one. Had some really, really solid bulk investments, and it really, really paid off for the Giratinas in this one. Really, really impressed with how well Alex played with it. Really, really put in a lot of work. Good matchup for it as well. The Age Slashers Raikou. Raikou, just a solid mon. It always is. And he utilized it appropriately and saved it for the right times to come into the match. And it excelled. The Giratina's Rillaboom, once again. I mean, Rillaboom is a mon that's really hard to keep off the kill leaderboard. It just hits so stupidly hard. There's so few things that switch into it, like, effectively. So trying to find those proper switch-ins and then utilize them and try to isolate it when there's 5 other mons on the team to also deal with it and support it, it's a tough thing to do. It's a tough thing to do, for sure. So, very, very solid stuff. Vaporeon making it up here early season, as well as Weezing. 2 walls making it on in the first week, which is really, really interesting to me. Vaporeon has had a good matchup, I feel. A bit of a rain matchup. It's able to just kind of sit there and not really care about a lot of what the Magikarps were doing this week. It was a solid matchup for it, plain and simple, and it did really, really well. Really good stuff. And then we have the Weezing, which, again, it's a really solid physical wall. Looked like it was in a pretty solid matchup for it. There were situations where I felt like the Weezing potentially could have been dealt with, but he played around with it incredibly well, and he should be very proud of how he utilized it this week for sure. We'll see if he's able to keep it on the kill leaders in the weeks to follow. But speaking about that, I do want to mention some honorable mentions, because there are some mons that are just shy of the list, and before the Jolteon's Darkrai game got submitted, one of them was on the list. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mons tied just outside of the top 10 with 2 kills and 1 death with a +1 differential. These mons include Weavile from the Memphis Brave Birds, Vanillix from the Vaporwave Vape Lords, Mawile from the Auckland Ambipalms, Kyurem Black from the Baltimore Honchcrows, Suicune from the Z Guardian Cocos, Chandelure from the Sacramento Sandstorms, Volcarona from the East Coast Aegis Slashers, and Bouffalant from the Anaheim Appletuns. All of these mons currently sitting at 2 and 1, all potentially with an opportunity to, with one good week, bump themselves right onto the kill leader board. So, really, really cool stuff. Again, obviously, it's the beginning of the season. A lot of mons are going to be really close. And that's that. So, very, very interested to see how this shapes out. It's going to be very, very fun. So, with that being said, let's take a look at some free agency transactions. I know I used to do this as a separate video, but I feel like including them here will be very interesting. So, let's go ahead and hop over to our free agency report. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are here for the free agency report. Now, this is going to be in a quick little 2-part thing. But we do have a trade, which I will discuss after I'm done with the free agency transactions. But as I did say at the beginning, we are doing 6 transactions per person throughout the course of the season to be used at any time. So, this week we had 3 coaches begin to dip into their pool. The first of those coaches was Gavino. Again, did say that his team was picked by Rennie during the course of the draft, and so apparently he's not too keen on some of the mons. So he decided to drop Nidoking, Magmar, and Dreadnought, none of which came this week, for Dragalge, Flareon, and Golisopod. So a couple interesting pickups here. Flareon gives him a fire immunity on the team, which is pretty interesting. Also, it's decent. There's some decent SPDEF if I remember correctly. It could also be a Guts Wall Breaker if he really wants to use it that way, depending on the matchup. So it could be a very interesting pickup. I'm very interested to see how he utilizes it. Then we have Dragalge, big bulk monster. It has an incredibly good defensive typing, shockingly. It is really tanky, but also with the ability to run adaptability to make it an absolute beast on the field. It's really, really hard to switch into. Definitely a mon that could be a huge threat for his team. And last but not least, picking up Golisopod. Just having access to first impression alone is incredibly good. It's one of the things that makes Sirfetch'd such an incredibly strong Pokemon, in my opinion. So having it on something like Golisopod is going to be an incredible asset for Givino going forward. Not to mention, with like boots and stuff, Golisopod got way better this generation, being able to avoid hazards and all that kind of stuff. So very, very good for him. Definitely, I think I'm looking forward to seeing how he utilizes these mons for sure. So it's gonna be a fun time. Then we have Liam and the Auckland Ambipoms dropping their Roselia for Wigglytuff, which I think is a very interesting swap. I was very interested when he picked Roselia up in the first place, potentially to use it for spikes or toxic spikes and stuff like that. It's a very good Spadef wall as a grass type. Pretty good stuff. Eviolite can tank some stuff pretty solidly. I've run it a little bit in the past, so it's kind of fun. But I think Wigglytuff provides a little bit more. Well, he does lose the spikes and toxic spikes. He gains another Stealth Rocker. I believe Wigglytuff also gets access to screens, if I remember correctly. Competitive is a fun ability to utilize in a meta that revolves a lot, I feel, around hazards and hazard removal. Because if you're not running boots, you're going to be running a lot of defoggers. So I think he might be trying to take advantage of that. Plus, Wigglytuff has some really good coverage. And on top of that, it, funnily enough, outside of Steel Wing, can be a straight counter to Dragapult, which I think is funny. And then we move on to James and the Memphis Bravebirds, who decided after week 1, they were like, screw it, I'm going to dump all my transactions at once. Why? Because why not? The man's crazy. The man is wild. He dropped Latios, Weavile, Crobat, Cobalion, Leafeon, and Quagsire for Scizor, Rapid Strike Urshifu, Celebi, Flygon, Lapras, and Palisand. So he had 20 points left over after his draft was done, so he just wanted to rework everything and mess around. And it's very, very interesting to see what he turned up with. So we'll start with the ones he didn't bring this week. He dropped Crobat, Cobalion, Leafeon, Quagsire. Leafeon doesn't provide as much. Actually, he did bring Quagsire this week. Leafeon doesn't typically provide as much if you don't have sun access. It's a decent bulky grass and can be a bit of a cleric, but it's overall it just kind of, it's hard to utilize if you don't have a sun mode for it to fit into. So I think Lapras is going to be very interesting for him. Gives him a freeze dry user, gives him a water immunity, which I think is really, really crucial. And gives him a little bit more priority with like Ice Shard and stuff like that. I feel like Lapras is very, very like versatile. I feel like you can do a lot with it. So I'm definitely very curious to see how he utilizes it throughout the course of the season. Definitely curious to see if that's a mon that comes more than like once or twice. Because Lapras is a lot of fun to use, for sure. Cobalion for Flygon, he loses a Stealth Rocker, but he gains a good ground immunity. He keeps access to momentum with U-turn instead of Volt Switch. I think Flygon is just a really solid member of his team. He loses some speed as well. He lost a lot of speed with his transactions here. In fact, he dropped 4 mons above base 100 speed, and the fastest mon he picked up was base 100 speed. So, very, very interesting to see that kind of like shift for slower, I guess more methodical kind of pace for his team, which is very interesting. The Flygon can provide a lot. DD Sweeper is actually used as a decent bulky mon in like lower tiers, which is very interesting to me. Watching people play NU recently, it's been kind of like, whoa, that's crazy. My cat found a scratching thing on the other side that I was using on the other side of the door to prop it, and he's having fun. And then Crobat for Celebi, he loses a Defogger and a lot of speed. What he gains is another bulky grass type. The base 100 across the board is incredibly versatile and good to use. Bulky Celebi does also get access to Heal Bell, so he does still gain Cleric potential. Celebi is always an interesting mon. I've always contemplated drafting it, but I've never actually pulled the trigger on it. I just never felt confident enough in using it, in my personal opinion. But I really hope that it's something that works out really well for him. It definitely looks like it could be a fun mon with his team. Hopefully he's able to support it and utilize it to the best of its ability. Now on to the ones that he did bring this week. He brought the Quagsire. Unfortunately, it did not pan out very well. Apparently too many things in the world get Grass Knot, which I've noticed. I did not know Zygarde got Grass Knot until I watched that match, so that's pretty crazy to me. But, yeah. Yes, he feels more confident in being able to deal with some of the other 4x weaknesses he picked up in place of the grass one, because grass is a little bit more annoying to deal with because so many things do get that annoying grass coverage. Palisand is a good replacement. He gains another rocker. He gains a spin blocker. And it still has reliable recovery. Water compaction could be interesting if you can ever find a way to utilize it. I think Palisand's a fun mon. I think Palisand's just a really, really fun mon. So it could be interesting to see how he utilizes it. I'm looking forward to it. He drops Weavile, who was one of our honorable mentions this week. Very interesting to see that go. It's disappointing, to say the least, because I personally feel Weavile has a lot of value all the time. But I guess he just didn't see it that way. And he picks up the Urshifu Rapid Strike. Now, I personally was not a fan of using this mon. I did not enjoy using it for the little time that I did last season. To each their own. But obviously, like things like Surging Strikes are really, really hard to switch into. It's a really, really strong Pokemon. It's just something that I just personally didn't enjoy. I hope that he gets way more success out of it than I did. And last but not least, he drops his Latios, which didn't really get a chance to do too much this week. It's just a tough matchup for the Scizor. Now, Scizor is a mon that is also very versatile in how you can build it. It can be bulky, it can be an SD, sweeper, it can be banded, scarf, whatever. You can do a lot of things with it. So, very, very interesting to see that. I'm definitely interested to see how he utilizes Scizor. I hope Scizor is an incredible asset to his team. That Priority Technician boosted Bullet Punch is great. He has defog potential, so he actually gains like more hazard removal out of this transaction. He gains an extra defogger out of it. No, actually, it's the same amount. Never mind. Forgot about Latios having defog. But even still, he doesn't really lose or gain a lot in this transaction. It pretty much keeps his team at a neutral, which I think is pretty interesting. Going to be fun to see how he utilizes all these transactions. It's going to be interesting also because we're all kind of used to the way of being able to just like swap things in and out and test things throughout the course of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how he functions. Now being stuck with how the team is. Like if he doesn't like it, now he's stuck with it for the rest of the season. That's kind of tough. So hopefully this team works out really well for him, and that could be really great. But now let's take a look at the trade that took place. And I'm gonna... how am I gonna do this? We're just going to do it like that. Yeah, live editing, boys. Let's go. We have one trade this week, which again, coaches can do this infinite times, but rarely ever do. The Ambihans trade Miltank for the Honchkro's Tangela. I believe that's how it works. Very, very interesting switch. Very, very interesting switch. Miltank is incredibly bulky, normal type, good recovery with Milk Drink, and having access to Heal Bell. It's a massive pain in the ass to deal with. It's also a stealth rocker, so he could definitely utilize that incredibly well with his team, I'm sure. Plus being able to just spam something like Body Slam. Having Thick Fat as well is really good for him. Good stuff. Just really good stuff. And then Liam getting the Tangela, that is going to be problematic central, in my opinion. Liam is an incredibly good coach already. And so being given one of the best fat grasses in the game, in my personal opinion, that's going to be a really, really tough task to deal with. Not great on the specially defensive side, but one of the greatest physical walls, in my opinion, in Tangela with the Udilite is so hard to break. Banded, super effective moves on the physical side sometimes tend to not even be able to take it out, which is crazy to me. It's so incredibly strong, and definitely really, really looking forward to seeing how he utilizes it. This is going to be a massive, massive threat going forward through the rest of the season. So definitely really, really exciting stuff. And yeah, very, very cool stuff. So I'm excited for that. And now, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at next week's matchups. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, as we go into week 2, we continue our divisional matchups as in the... Hold on. Let me pull up the division names on my phone, because I do not remember what we named the divisions this season. I do not remember for the life of me. I apologize. Give me 1 second. Perfect. In the Twin Leaf division, oh yeah, because we named them all after cities in Sinnoh because of the Sinnoh remakes coming out in a couple months, which I'm really excited for. In the Twin Leaf division, we have the Myrtle Magikarps taking on the Toffee Tyrannotars. It's very interesting how this worked out, that the two 0-1 teams of this division are essentially going to be fighting for who doesn't get last place in their division, basically. That's what they're fighting for at this point, which is really, really interesting to me. Both really strong coaches. Going to be interesting to see how that Dracovish matches up against the potentially sand utilizing Tyranitar roster. Going to be very interesting to see if he even brings the sand for fear of being countered by a Sand Rush. Dracovish. Could be interesting to see how that one pans out. Could also kind of do the same thing with Mantine from the Tyrannotars against the Rain Setter. Bringing like a Swift Swim offensive Mantine to be a bit of an annoyance. Could be done on either side, so it's going to be a very interesting matchup to take a look at. Then we have the Vaporwave Vape Lords taking on the South Aussie Slow Kings. Yasmin taking on Jason, two pals from over in MMF, one of the groups that we are friends with over on Facebook. Magirna's, hold on, let me make sure, again, I don't want to say the wrong name for the group, so we won't do that. Magirna's Moving Fortress. It's a reference. The Slow Kings have an incredibly strong roster, an incredibly defensive roster. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Yasmin's roster will be able to break through it. She does have a lot of the tools that could do so. Incineroar itself stands out as something that could really, really be a massive threat to Jason if he's not careful. It's definitely going to be a very, very fun match for sure. Those two, I'm sure, have played each other dozens and dozens of times and know each other incredibly well, so it's going to be very fun to see how that one pans out. Next, we move on to the Sunny Shore division, where we see the Z Guardian Cocos taking on the Auckland Ambipons. Ambipoms coming off of a massive win week 1 and making some definite improvements to their roster, so it's going to be a really tough matchup. Liam is always an incredibly difficult opponent to face, so it's going to be very interesting to see if Shawnee will be able to bounce back from his week 1 loss. But if anyone can do it, Shawnee. He's an incredibly solid competitor always, so it's going to be very fun to see which one of these two behemoths will come out on top. And then for the other match in this division, it is the Battle of Commissioners as the Anaheim Appletons take on the Baltimore Honchcrows. Me and Nate are definitely rivals. We have had plenty of matches against each other. I've won most of them, but I believe he beat me last season, and that doesn't sit well with me. I didn't like that. So I don't want to let it happen again. I do not intend to let it happen again. But it's a tough matchup because Pure and Black exists. And I'm not really too big of a fan of it. So, going to be a fun one to say the very least. I'm really, really looking forward to that one. A lot. Next up, we move to the Celestic division. With the Sacramento Sandstorms taking on the Los Angeles Darkrais. Another case of the two 0-1 teams facing off in the following week. Excuse me. Darius is a solid competitor, so I expect him to bounce back from his week 1 loss. But he's up against a tough test. Rennie is always someone you definitely don't want to face, especially after a loss. He's such a solid competitor, always has been, hence the multiple championship wins. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see. Excuse me. How this one shapes out. Sun Team versus Darius' Sandstorms with his Tapu Lele. I'm very intrigued by it. Then we move to the two 1-0 teams in this division. The J-Dog Jolteons taking on the Bridgeport Sandacondas. Deshaun has proven time and time again, especially all of last season, how good he can be, how good he really is. And I do not expect him to disappoint anytime soon. I will never be rooting against Deshaun in a match because I always expect him to pull out something awesome and blow my mind. He did it a lot last season. I'm sure he'll do it again now. But on top of that, we also have Jesse, who pulled out a very, very solid win week 1 against a former multi-time champion of this league. So anything can happen here. Both teams are incredibly solid and have some incredibly dangerous mons. Zeraora, Cinderace, Primarina, Haxorus, Articuno. On the Jolteon side, on Sandacondas have Garchomp, Nihilego, Tangrowth, Silvally, and a Pikachu. They have Pikachu. How do you root against Pikachu? He's the mascot. Going to be a really, really fun one for sure. And last but not least, we move over to the Jubilife division, where the Venice Beach Victinis will be taking on the East Coast Age Slashers. Eric is new up here in the land of not D-League, and is an incredibly solid competitor, and he proved that week 1 taking on James in a winning effort. He's got an incredibly solid roster, so it's definitely going to be very interesting to see if he will be able to utilize that roster to overcome Davino, who has been a top competitor here multiple times over, and who recently made some trades and transactions to boost his team a bit. So hopefully those transactions will do well for him. We'll see how they pan out in this matchup against Eric. Eric has a terrifying team. That's going to be really hard for him to break. We'll see if it pans out well for him. And last but not least, we have the Greenwich Giratinas taking on the Memphis Braybirds. Another battle of commissioners. Really excited about this one, for sure. Alex and James are two incredibly solid players. Alex's team is stupid this season. It's really, really strong. It has very, very few holes, if any, to exploit. But if anyone can find a hole somewhere to and make the most out of it, it's James. And he dropped all his transactions this week, so it's going to be very interesting to see if those will be able to pan out to a winning matchup for him. So very, very cool stuff. Really, really looking forward to it. And a lot of fun matchups in week 2. So let's see how everything shakes up and head into the rest of the season. I'm really excited to be back making content like this. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm super looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the NPBF channel. We are going to hopefully, a lot of people have been saying that they were very interested in helping out with content. So hopefully I will be getting as many guest commentators on these videos as I possibly can. Obviously, trying to find time to schedule things is going to be difficult, but I will make the best effort I possibly can to get people on these on a semi-regular basis. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, thank you guys again for watching. And until next time, my name is Jeff. I also go by PokePrimer, and I will see you next week. Peace.